Hello everyone and welcome to Pisces Guide to Pop Culture. I'm of course your host TJ. Today doing a little reading update of Philippa Gregory's Boleyn Traitor, which I posted a photo of yesterday, but wanted to talk about just a little bit as I make my way through it. I obviously am a huge hisfic fan. In the past I've been a huge fan of Philippa Gregory. I have to admit some of her other works were a little got a little bit repetitive there, especially when she was doing the Cousins War and we were following the various people in the Wars of the Roses. And I was a little skeptical, given that this novel focuses on Jane Boleyn, the sister-in-law of Anne, wife of Anne's brother George. You know, she was kind of the villain of Other Boleyn Girl and somewhat of a villain in Boleyn Inheritance. So it's interesting that we're returning to this character, but I will say this is one of Philippa Gregory's best in years. I love the way that she gives Jane more depth here, that we see her as a really fierce and cunning, very intelligent young woman, raised by a scholar, but sort of thrust into the dark and very tumultuous and dangerous and beautiful world of the Tudor court. And so, I like this voice for Jane, that she's knowing, but also, you know, again, a very young woman still. And so I appreciate the way that this novel, as opposed to some of the other ones, is really kind of teasing out the complexities and also the sort of unenviable position in which she finds herself, given the fact that, you know, she is very adjacent to power, but in the Tudor court, all it takes is one wrong move, one wrong word sometimes, and the hammer of royal disfavor can come crashing down. And to me, the best interpretations and historical representations of the Tudor court tend to balance the beauty with the horror, and like, I think that that's really apt, and that's what, you know, we see in shows like The Tudors. We see it in the best of Gregory's work, but we see it in, you know, say Wolf Hall is like that too. And so, you know, I wouldn't say that necessarily this is the best book I've ever read, but I will say that's one of Gregory's best. And I really am I'm enjoying this because I do love Tudor fictions, and it also seems like a very timely work. I mean, Henry is, you know, a pompous, bloated, red-haired tyrant, and if that sounds familiar, it probably should, since that's what we're living in right now. And so, you know, this is a book that feels timely. It shows the extent to which women in many historical periods have had their powers and agencies circumscribed, but have had to find ways to survive and sometimes, in some cases, thrive. And so I'm only about a fourth of the way through the book, but I'm already really enjoying it. I think that it brings something new and interesting to the table as far as representations of the Tudors, which is not easy to do given how much pop culture loves them. So I'm very much enjoying Boleyn Traitor. I also adore this cover. Like I said, and it's also beautifully evocatively written, and so I'm really enjoying it and hoping to share more of my thoughts with all of you. Anyway, thanks as always for joining me here at the Pisces Guide to Pop Culture. I'm your host, TJ. Take care, y'all.